travel? 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 Why do people lie? Why are bikes so easy to steal? Which form of transport allows you to wear a leather jacket? Why are buses so germ infested? Why is public transport so late all the time? All of this and much more feature in this video. So hello fellas.
Well go on, my G.
Right?
Walking.
Now I mean there's obviously the health benefits to walking. If you don't want to be around someone you can just walk off. I think those are the only sort of advantages I see to walking.
Eco-friendly, like within reason. If you just go for a walk down the street, you're not going to kill some animals by you just walking.
Fairly easy to crush an animal under your shoe. Not that I'm saying I'm a psychopath or anything. You know, you step on bugs and everything without realising, so...
I think within reason, the good thing about walking is you can enjoy the fruits of nature by... This is like in the countryside. If you live like in the countryside, yeah, walking's a very nice thing to do because you're able to sort of explore the local scene and...
You know, view a couple of doggers, destroy the wildlife habitat. It's all just nature.
Slow walkers, the pavement, getting mugged.
Move around people when they're walking and similar. It's just fucking irritating. You're gonna walk past someone.
Cars. It depends on when you walk slow. If you're walking slow in the middle of a town centre, and people are trying to get around you, then yeah, you're a dick. If you're walking slowly in the countryside and just enjoying the day, then that's fine.
I was on the way to school before. I think I was probably about either 11 or 12. And I got essentially chased to school by someone who, I think they had a glove and it had dog poop on it. And they felt, because they felt the need to like chase me to school with this dog poo glove. And I don't really trust most people because I don't know what he's going to do with it. He's probably going to try and like smear it on me or try to do something dodgy. So I think that's the quickest I've ever run in my life. Like I'd probably set like a good personal best that I'm marathon because yeah, I don't really want to be chased by a man with a dog poo glove. And then I think the following day I saw this person at school and they're busy trying to claim that they weren't chasing me with a dog poo glove, and I was like, yeah, I remember you with this glove. So don't try to bullshit me, man.
Badness, outright. Screw it, let's just go for the wildly approachable sitting in floaty anti-grav chairs.
It's cycling.
It's a fast way to get around. Better than walking.
Oh, you can piss people off in cars. That's all I've ever seen to see cyclists do. Just ride out in front of a car and not give them a shit.
It's hard.
Got no life.
You can Lance Armstrong, so I mean that's always an advantage.
Oh, in that case, you're gonna need some steroids if you're on there.
Well, so you can wear lycra and people won't laugh at you because you're on a bike.
Does it always have to be like yellow lycra, or because that's the only thing I see the cyclists in?
Lycra, it's like red lycra. You can get lycra.
Yeah, I had a school teacher.
So most people like wearing yellow because it makes them obvious.
Is it because they watched the Tour Tour de France once and then they immediately think they're in that?
Yes, I am number one driver, yes.
I had a school teacher that used to ride his bike to school every morning and every night. Once during the winter, I watched him just completely wipe out in the driveway for the school, and it was the funniest thing I think I've ever seen. Actually, that might be a positive now, I think about it. Well, he wore lycra and probably didn't smell, but then again, he taught us how to use like handsaws and stuff like that, so he just smelled like burnt wood all day.
If you leave it anywhere in your local town centre, leave it for X amount of time, come back, it will get stolen. Like, I can 100% guarantee that.
I can speak from personal experience and say that's happened to me.
I've never done that myself, but there used to be a bus stop on my way to work, and there was somebody left a bike next to it the one, and this is genuinely the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Each week another part of that bike had been stolen. So like the bike seat went one week, and then the next week it was one of the brakes, then the chain, then the back wheel, and it just kept slowly vanishing. It was weird.
Went shopping in the town centre for about an hour, probably about 45 minutes. Came back outside to look at my bike because I was getting ready to go back home because I had about a 20-minute I tried to go home, and all it left me on the bike rack was just the lock. Like, if you're gonna steal the bike, take the lock as well. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I can't believe my bike's gone, and had to go to the police, because I'm like, yeah, I kind of maybe want this bike back.
Just opportunistic though. Like if you were to leave like something out that they see as valuable, they'll steal it the second that you turn your back. Like, you know, I remember when I was like 15, somebody stole my BMX from my garden that was locked in a shed, and so it didn't even need to be in the city centre to be stolen. Somebody must have stolen it. That's kind of weird. Have you seen those bikes that you can rent? And they're like, how much is it now? Like 25 pence a minute or something. 5 pence a minute.
I mean, the Boris bikes that we've just had installed in our local area.
They're really pathetic, and I'm surprised we didn't mention this earlier.
No, I see a lot of people with good idea in theory.
Is there a reason why subscription services for everything is becoming a thing now?
Yeah, because people make more money that way, and people are stupid.
Oh, I know, but it's more the fact that, oh, shall I spend like, you know, 100 quid on a new bike, or shall I rent one for 5 pence a minute?
I want to rent for 5 pence a minute. Why? Because it's more certain.
That's £1.20 an hour. One way you could improve it is if you gave it 2 extra wheels, an engine, a roof, a couple of extra seats inside, or maybe a radio of some kind.
That would be an improvement, but I think it would drastically increase the prices offered by like 500%.
Yeah, but if you're buying a special bicycle, not a car,
You should persecute.
an improved bicycle, sorry, for 5 times what you'd pay for a regular bicycle. That's a pretty good bargain compared to buying a similar sounding vehicle.
Motorbikes.
Really cool. You could be part of a biker gang.
Yeah, 1% sell heroin on the streets, and then if the cops come, you can ride away down an alley.
We're bikers, yeah.
Most motorbikes, certain kind of motorbikes are faster than cars, aren't they?
Depends on the kind of bike.
And the kind of car as well, and the conditions that you're riding in, obviously.
And if you've got flat road surface.
You don't want to be riding a motorbike fast in rain. That's just, you might as well just jump off the bike at 100 miles an hour and pray.
I think a positive of motorbikes is you have an excuse to wear a leather jacket. That's
Is this why you want to talk about motorbikes? Because you're planning on buying a leather jacket.
If it's the only one I know who wears leather jacket is my good friend Brock.
Well, the cat destroyed my leather jacket. I'm very angry about it.
One of the positive motorbikes is people who ride them tend to be in a tight knit community sort of together. They probably do lots of biker stuff.
On the road, bikers usually tend to stop and help.
Probably the crashes of them are probably the big thing. I'd say that puts a lot of people off. They're quite horrific, some of those bike crashes.
Yeah, I think the disadvantage is obviously the sort of initial trying to obviously get your hands on one. You know, the issues of trying to sort out licensing cost as well, because for the same kind of equivalent costs of buying a motorcycle, you know, you could pick up a fairly good car. Some people just don't like bikers.
Yeah, there tends to be kind of a stereotype about them that they tend to be really kind of rough people who don't really take kindly to them. How do we improve motorbikes?
Make them cooler, because I saw one that was built in Thailand and I was mildly offended by it. Look, aesthetically it's not too bad in terms of colours, but when I saw the design of the bike, I just went, yeah, that's not a cool bike, I wouldn't ride.
I can sort of see how people would like that, to be honest, but probably yourself, who's a Gundam fan, you're probably very irritated by it.
I'm really irritated by it because I'm just looking at it, I'm just like, this is a horribly, I don't like bikes of that design anyway.
Why don't you like bikes of this design?
It looks so flat, it looks boxy, it's like a motorcycle should look elegant, it should flow. This thing, it just looks like the equivalent of a human box. Someone just went, here's a square shape, put a CC engine in it, and just, you know, have fun. Colours-wise,
yeah, bikers are very nice people.
No, they're incredibly nice people if you don't piss them off. But I think that's true of most people.
I think that's just the general rule in life, just don't be a dick to anyone.
Oh, and don't sell stuff on their patch. They don't like it when you do that.
Unless you're one of them, in which case go ahead, sell all you want.
Cars.
Liberator of the people. A bunch of kooky designs. It is a greater liberator of the people than a Challenger 2 tank.
I would say it's the freedom bit, because when most people pass their driving licence, kind of pass their driving exams, the first thing they mention is, oh, look at me, I've got my freedom now. Yeah, so it's obviously changed the way that humans live, don't they? Because obviously before the car, we used to probably go around by the horseback,
penny farthings. I mean, there was that whole thing of Margaret Thatcher once proposed ripping up all the railways in the country. and turning them all into motorways.
Which, to be honest, sounded like a really stupid idea, but...
In hindsight, yeah, it would have been an incredibly stupid idea.
Well, in the United Kingdom alone, you could probably get anywhere in the country in 24 hours in a car, which I think is pretty impressive, to be fair. I would probably argue, I think I said it earlier, but I'd say they're probably safer than motorbikes, just about in the event of a crash. Because obviously you have sort of your airbags in the vehicle.
Based cars in Lancia. The Lancia Stratos is the most based car in history, and I will hear nothing said of its potential breakdown ability.
There's a lot of good positives. There's the cars from Jurassic Park. They were great until that dinosaur gone.
At being invented, we wouldn't have heard about me, Brock's favourite Formula 1 driver, big lad's Kimi Räikkönen, who is just...
Fair, to be fair.
Can he have the drink?
Yes, yeah, no, Kimi, you will not have the drink.
But what I kind of mentioned about motorbikes, within each, yeah, it's probably the vehicle that you could probably have the most amount of storage in it within reason. Like, you can sort of do your weekly shopping in your car, and then you can go and take your car on holiday with you and fill it with everybody's luggage. You could probably use it to go to the dump to go and take any waste from your house there. You could.
This sounds like a lot like my improved bicycle.
Oh wow, that is
Tragic.
That actually makes a Tesla look interesting.
I mean, I get it, like, it's a car and you can't moan, but that car has almost no boot space, it's tiny, it's horrific, and worst of all, it's a Peugeot. That's a much more aesthetic car.
Give it a
It's not much better, but...
Yeah, that one's slightly
Yeah.
better than the last.
Version of the last one.
It's like the natural evolution.
It looks slightly better,
You're right.
but it's not overly great.
Peugeot haven't done a great car in a good while. Ivan Monix once said to me, "Here is this car, would you drive?"
I'd say that one
There we go.
looks
Put it up on
much...
screen.
I would drive that one to be fair. It looks like a nice car.
That looks pretty decent.
Yeah, that's their new model for this year. They've got the fancy new logo on the
only
front, which
have
is just
to
the
plug it
lion's
in
head as opposed to the
that
whole
one.
lion. Not bad, like, you can tell they've been refining it for a while.
Probably another point as well is whenever you're walking in the rain and someone drives past you with a car and they deliberately see you're on the pavement near them, and then they go and drive like through a puddle that's near the road near the pavement which you're walking, and they feel the need to drive past it and splash it. Those people could also please stop. Have you ever sat on a long car journey in the middle seat? That's actually horrible.
Most inhumane thing, because you get stuck next to both people. You don't have a window of your own to look out of. You don't get the advantage of a headrest in some cars. It's just generally the worst place to sit. Like, I'd rather be sitting in an actual seat.
Taxis. It's within reason any time of day you can sort of catch one by modern sort of taxi company stand, and you can kind of within reason. I do enjoy when you get in a taxi and the taxi driver, while you're there at like 4 in the morning, is busy telling you, pointing to all the different bits of your local area, saying what factories used to be there back in the good old days.
You can learn some interesting things about what people think of the world when you're in a taxi. Even if you don't want to hear it, you can still hear those interesting things.
To getting on buses during COVID. So obviously I'm not making as many trips, but as and when I am making them, I am choosing taxis because I trust the drivers to, be taking reasonable precautions to obviously wipe the taxis down as and when they're being used, and obviously they're leaving the windows open.
It's a slightly different point. This isn't the fault of the taxis, these are the people using it. People tried to use the quote fake taxi method because they're cheap, and you know what I mean.
Way to meet people.
Yeah, that's not gonna work in the real life. Granted, some probably dodgy taxi drivers might go down that method, but in real life, most taxi drivers probably married with a bunch of kids and they're just gonna be like, ugh, no, get away from me. But some taxi drivers are just really fed up of drunk people in their cabs, they're quite rude and aren't really kind of respectful and stuff, which I can understand them as well.
No, but I mean, if you're going into a taxi with no manners like that's a people problem. Like, a lot of the issues of travel and using vehicles to get to places, be they road, train, boats, or, air-based, it's always individual behaviours, you know. So when people misbehave, it just ruins the experience for everyone.
I think I don't like about taxis is I don't like them knowing where I live, which is a bit of a weird thing when someone's picking you up. So like whenever I get one, I deliberately make sure they pick me up round the corner from the house, as I don't really want them knowing where I live, as it's just a bit of a security thing. I just not overly keen on telling people where I live.
Have less serial killers driving the things. I've had some really creepy flipping taxi drivers, like the kind that yeah, you can just stop here, it's fine. I'll walk the next mile from my house.
Socialist transport for my comrades in the Communist Party.
I've always wanted to spend an hour travelling to a place. Awkward away from a local position and stuff that is so awkwardly positioned away from where I'm going that I have to walk for 20 minutes. It's great, you know.
Public transport, so it's probably the cheapest, probably most affordable form of transport. Like within reason, a lot of people who can't drive will have to use the bus to get to places. I think this is positive. Kind of helps the elderly community and not allowed to drive anymore, to like go about their sort of daily business and not be too sort of disconnected from the world.
I think the only positive is that when you reach 65, you get a free bus pass.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the only positive we've had.
Timetables for a local bus company. I don't even know why they bothered like printing them, because they don't show up when they claim to show up.
On my route, they have to, because you know their whole advertising for my route was every 7 to 9 minutes, and it's closer to 7. But it's a main road. Where we're from, is they do the routes based on the first buses of the day, when there's practically no traffic. So if you go any time before 7:15 in the morning, your buses will be accurate to the time. But if you go any later than that, no, it's 1 minute later, 2 minutes later.
I think buses themselves, when the global pandemic hit, I wasn't actually worried, to be honest, because I've got on our local buses. They're one of the most germ-infested places I've ever been to. And honestly,
they were like that before the pandemic.
And like honestly, it's like when they were talking about the virus during the pandemic, I wasn't worried, because it's like I've been on our local bus service. It's disgusting.
We're some of the best of humanity and some of the lowest, most scummy behaviour imaginable. You know,
I'm 25.
Yeah, people fight on the bus. People do drugs. They smoke. They drink. Wait, what positives are there to this local bus service? These are the names.
Actually caught a couple just full on making out at the back of a bus. I wasn't even on the damn thing. The guy was just like on top of her, practically at the back, thinking no one can see. This is at like 8:45 in the morning. It was fucking disturbing, and but it was kind of funny.
Who was it? It was either one of you two. I remember sent a picture before that you saw a chicken on the bus. Like
it was me.
Was it like a full-blown roast chicken that someone left on the bus? It was like fully cooked and someone left it underneath a seat.
Yeah. I was making my way home from work one day, and I was talking to some guys we worked with at the time, and obviously I'd seen them off because I had to swap buses to get onto another bus to basically be 5 minutes from my house, because I had to do a 5-minute walk. I get on this bus, probably across the aisle from me, there is, in life and living colour, a full roasted chicken on the bus floor. And I was like, that can't be real. That's just some prop someone has left behind, because there is no way someone's going to have left a whole chicken on a bus. No, it was a whole chicken.
I think when you're on an empty bus, all those seats around, any seat available, you're already on the bus. Somebody gets on and they feel the need to sit in the seat directly next to you, and I got a whole bus. It's like you don't know this person, it's a random stranger. They come on, pay their fare, come on, and just sit right next to you. It's like, what the fuck?
We really are finding out that the only positive to a bus is your bus pass at 65.
I think the most disgusting thing I've seen on a bus before is I watched this lady reading a newspaper, and then she licked her finger and to turn the page, and then she'd read blah blah the next page, whatever. And then she'd lick her finger again, go turn the page. And then I watched her use that same finger, press the stop button. I was like, ugh, can you not like use your elbow or something else? Like, that's disgusting.
If you think that's bad, you want to take 79 bus after 10 o'clock at night. You'll see some gross stuff on that one. This one person time I was on a bus, and this woman was sitting behind me, and it was those chairs that are slightly higher. She's just sitting there filing her neck the entire trip, and I was like, thanks, I've always wanted your nail particles stuck all in my hair and it.
Ugh.
I think it's the continued I think it's the continuing meme of this episode has just been, it's not the companies, it's the people who use the transport make these messes. This becomes a very big issue of where you live, your operating company, and the standard of rolling stock becomes a pretty serious issue, because if you live up north, you have been repetitively shafted by successive governments not investing in northern rail infrastructure. But obviously, because we live in a fairly good commute hub, I can get to Birmingham in 20 minutes. I can get to most places in the country within 4 hours, so I have very little to complain about when it comes to my trains, other than pricing.
Oh, when I used to work at this one place and I'd be catching the 6:20 train to Birmingham, there must be a fat guy asleep on it. That is my only positive on trains.
I think they're the most comfortable form of transport because you're actually allowed some leg room on these trains. Might be a popular opinion, but I enjoy the little shops you get on trains, as I think they're really, really cool, to be fair. And I do like with trains, it's quite easy to go up and down the country, and we'll move on to the other downside of that. So like to go to London, Birmingham to London, it's pretty easy to do, to be honest, as it's only a couple of hours. The only downside is if you want to go from left to right in the country, it's annoyingly difficult. Like for example, if you want to go from, was it Cardiff to maybe Norwich, for example, like probably at some point you probably have to change the train, get to London to like, catch the other bit, which is a bit irritating because it's a load of time spent which you could be doing something else. But
from personal experience, having done the trip to just outside Nottingham from obviously where we live, if you do that trip in a car, you could probably do it in 40 minutes. Doing it on the train was a 3-hour trek. That's just like, yeah, never again. It's too long.
They kind of suffer a similar problem to buses with lateness, and like they're pretty common, a bit like sort of Northern Rail as you mentioned earlier. But kind of that one's probably does the most amount shafted, but probably other sort of railway lines do equal amount of shafted with. Like when they're late, which is not ideal. Not fun being having to wait at the station. Like I've done before where a train's been late, I've been stuck having to wait like an extra hour or something else, which is quite irritating. But
like I can speak from experience. I've been on 2 trains where they're pretty much the fastest trains in the country. They could be faster, but obviously signalling restrictions sort of stop them from going faster. And in both experiences, I actually needed to get somewhere, so I was kind of in a rush. But in both cases, the trains literally broke down in the station. Not like we got halfway up the route, then it broke. No, like literally, they revved the engines, and then the engine died. So in the case of that one train, I was trying to get to an event. Luckily, I'd given myself a bit of extra time because not knowing where I was going to this certain event, I decided to give myself 2 extra hours, plus I wanted to explore around. So I got told, oh yeah, your tickets will be valid for the next service, but it's in an hour. So to sit in the station for an hour, waiting for this replacement train to arrive, and then it's going to be full, because obviously everyone's had to come off the train that's broken down onto this new train. And it's just like, ugh. I needed to be somewhere. So I got to the place I needed to be with probably about a half hour before I actually needed to get in. So I didn't have a lot of time to really explore, which I think I would have really kind of preferred. And the other time it broke down was trying to get to university.
Pissed me off. It's mostly people who book a seat and then they jump on the train and you're like, oh, you're in my seat, I've pre-booked this, like, you know, well, they didn't pre-book it, their assistant pre-booked it. And they sit there as if like they're fucking royalty or some shit because you're in their seat. And it's like, oh, thanks, you know, I've been at work all fucking day, you know, covered in all kinds of paint and concrete and whatever. But please, take your seat in your, you know, $2,000 suit. I'm so sorry, your mask. Your Highness, sorry, not your man. Fucking pisses me off, those people. And they sit there all smug with themselves and you're just walking away thinking, I'm glad I fired on that shit. Fucker. Hope you can breathe that one in your bathroom. That cabin, you know, like when you'd only be stuck with a small group of people rather than 50.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a lot easier. That way the miserable twats with their prepaid ticket positionings couldn't fucking complain that someone's in their seat. And, you know, you don't have to deal with people complaining about the quiet zone being loud. Or even complaining that you walked into a quiet area or anywhere on the train and have to listen to people going, oh my god, I think I've left my Oyster card in the house. Entire fucking journey. I don't like trains, is it obvious?
Trams.
Taking a train,
Yeah.
they all rammed into one giant tube.
I think the only thoughts on trams are it's literally just the train on the road.
Our local area keeps getting twatted in the same spot, right on the ring road. It's the same spot every time that tram gets hit in that same location.
Yeah, it's quite fun, isn't it? There is a boat.
We live on an island, it's the only way off the island.
You can travel across water. British tourists are rather fond of going on ferries so they can have the cheap beers and cigarettes from the ferry shop. Rich/elderly people enjoy sort of getting cruises for their holidays.
I mean, the pollution party bus.
Yeah, which I've never really seen the hype of, to be honest.
I think it's the kind of people who like going on holiday, but they don't want to learn the language, try the local food, get to know the local people. They just want to go on holiday with a load of people like themselves and not actually leave the vehicle that they've gone there in. Terrifying being drunk on a ferry.
I can imagine, because being worst, if you're sober on a ferry, it feels like you're drunk when it's sort of going.
Terrifying because I had like 4 bottles of that. What's that beer where like it's got the fancy lid that pops off? Whatever the fuck it is.
I don't know, to be honest.
A couple of them in the boat, and we were in a storm, and like it was like trying to walk on an impossible staircase and being drunk at the same time. It's funny for everyone else, but at the same time, like I nearly went arsehole for tit more times I can count.
Luckily this hasn't happened to me, but I remember going on a school trip before to Belgium. I've said to get the ferry from Dover to sort of Calais before we obviously went into Belgium. I think I was literally the only one on that trip that wasn't seasick. I was like, ooh. Every single person I knew had to like go to the side to go throw up, which is not fun.
Yeah, I've never been seasick. I quite like that.
Yeah, I'm also.
More boats more often.
I do like getting on ferries, to be fair. It's quite exciting because obviously we live in the middle of the country, so we don't really get to see the sea very often. So actually, a bit like with trains, I do like with ferries as well. And like other modes of transport, you don't have to stay in your seat. You can go for a walk around the boat.
The storm on though, and you try to open the door, and you're like, oh shit, it's locked, and then somebody opens it, and they're struggling to open the door with the wind blowing on it.
Planes.
Well, it's a lot quicker than all the other forms of transport we've mentioned.
I guess I'm a big fan of planes better. You know, the liveries on the outsides of planes, those are always interesting to look at. You can get to where you got to go. Concorde existed. I mean, I know they're trying to work on bringing back supersonic flights, so we might see Concorde 2.0 at some point.
I do think with planes as well, is within reason, you can get to anywhere in the world in 24 hours. Like physically get there, like excluding any political situation, which is pretty interesting to be fair.
It is the closest you will get to space without being an astronaut for a lot of people. Obviously they're doing a lot of experiment about long haul flights, so they've had people fly from, I think it was New York to, I think it was Singapore. It was London or New York, like to Singapore, I think it was Australia. Because they were doing.
It was Sydney to London straight.
That was it. Because they wanted to experiment on, could it be done? And how would you have to make the passengers approach it? And the whole thing was like literally they just changed the plane to like Sydney, or the time zone they were going to, and just said, we're going to have you move about the plane. They didn't. It wasn't full because obviously they're experimenting. Doing it with a full plane could be a bit difficult. But they said there's some positives to it, but I still think you might want a bit of a break. So yeah.
They're a lot more reliable for things, like way more reliable, especially a lot more reliable than, say, some idiot's plan to launch a giant rocket into the sky and land it to the side of the world, because that's more reliable. Like they claim it's the safest way you can travel, which I can kind of understand to a degree. Unless you get struck by lightning or say a certain incident happens, which we won't go into. It's the only system of travel that has evolved. So you can rip a fart on it and like it won't reach the whole place.
I do like the views you get to see out the window. I think that's pretty exciting. It's cool to sort of see like environments you get to see very often, because X, Y, Z feet in the air is obviously a lot different to the usual sort of ground level activity. So I like seeing sort of the clouds up in the sky when you're up in a plane. That's pretty cool.
They're not very good at stopping.
Would you like to go more into that, or?
You know, if the engines stop working in the middle of the sky, you've got, depending on where you are, like a certain amount of time to kind of pray that they start back up. It's not like you can pull over and, you know, check the radiator.
Luckily, with a lot of the engines on planes, especially nowadays, because we had it fairly recently, if one engine stopped working, obviously the planes are designed to be able to get, you know, to ground as safely as possible, you know, within a reasonable time frame. You know, and the engines don't typically tend to just like blow up and, you know, take half the plane with it. You know, the outer casing of the engine usually just falls away, and then, you know, you're sitting there looking at a burning, smouldering wreck at the side of the plane while the pilot calmly, like, not trying to shit themselves, lands the plane. Happened on an A380 bird recently too. It was great.
Playing actual seats, sitting behind someone, is apparently you're not allowed to have any leg room if you're above a certain height. Just your knees just squished by the chair, and it's like quite uncomfortable, to be honest. Like, because obviously a lot of planes are designed to save weight and kind of so it can perform at its maximum efficiency. Kind of a lot of that stuff is irritating because you're above a certain height. The plane companies are essentially saying to you, oh yeah, you're not allowed any legs. Sucks to be you.
So it's the Mile High Club. It's a positive and a negative depending on which side of that club you're in.
You always want it to turn out negative in that situation.
It's probably negative if you're the next person who needs the toilet after the turn.
Yeah.
It's more of a negative.
You know, you're not on a long haul flight moment, and they're pretty optimum for, you know, where they are. Like, you can't really improve them beyond like micro improvements, like, you know, making them slightly more efficient, making them, you know, slightly more roomier, but also trying to, you know, keep them small. Because the problem, you know, you've had with the 747 and the A380 is they're big planes, but they're very rarely ever full. So obviously airlines are looking at trying to downsize as much as they can. So obviously if they have smaller planes, they don't have to, you know, pay out as much in terms of maintenance and trying to sort, you know, airports and hangars out. But realistically, planes either have to start being able to go faster, which isn't likely, or we've got to look at ways of getting them to go higher. But obviously they're probably about as high as they can go without having to, you know, create specialised environments, and, you know, at that height air is pretty thin.
What is the future of travel?
Teleporters and starter.
King planes, but sort of redesigned to, well, I guess they're planes, but I guess stratoplanes, where you'd send planes into the atmosphere on a flyer, and then they go high up and then they just drop down, so you'd cut out the travel time by literally having most of that time just be the descent down to Earth. But obviously that's what's basically Virgin Galactic are doing with their space tourism planes, but, you know, sort of on a bigger scale. You just avoid having to fly to specific areas. You drop from, you know, the stratosphere, as opposed to, you know, flying in a straight line and just going, yeah, that'll do.
I kind of had the same thought as bike, to be honest. That the only thing you could really improve travel, to be honest, is kind of teleport / your transmat / your river disappearing into one area and reappearing in the other. But that's kind of, I'm assuming we're many sort of hundreds / thousands of years away from that.
Watching a documentary about how it is possible to transport like a single atom, and they actually admitted if they were to do it with a person, even with the best, like, you know, fibre optic whatever to sending information, it takes 32,000 years to send a full human being. So we're kind of away, a couple of million miles away from getting it.
Yeah,
but I understand Harry Potter has broomsticks, so we could just use that.
I'm assuming with that as well, it's unlikely to sort of happen until holograms become a thing in the sci-fi dream.
Obviously AI and computer technology will, you know, continuously improve over the next few years, so don't be surprised in 25 years if they literally say, yeah, you're not going to own your own car now, you're all going to rent a car, and, you know, it'll be like ride sharing, but, you know, you buy timeshares in your auto car.